Hey guys, how you going? In this video I'm going to be showing you how to create a custom file upload button from scratch using the FileList JavaScript object as well as a bit of HTML and of course CSS. So basically this right here is the final result. We've got this custom file upload button and it's got support for not only multiple files but also Internet Explorer 11. And we can see if I was to click on this button, we of course get the file selection window. I can choose, for example, 3 files just like this and press open, and we can see each file name is displayed next to the button, separated by a comma. Okay, so this is like an improved version or a better alternative to my previous video from 2 years ago, which created a custom file upload button with regular expressions instead of the file list object. So definitely this video right here is the better alternative to the regex based approach. So anyway, let's go inside this tab and create the custom file upload button from scratch. So inside the HTML, we can see I've got this index.html file and it's a basic HTML skeleton. So the first thing to do is to create the HTML structure for the custom file upload button. So let's go below the h1 tag and create a new div with a class of file-upload just like this. And basically this div is going to be the main container for all of the HTML elements which make up the custom file upload button. So firstly, we need an input with a type of file. So this right here is going to be the actual file input, and this one is going to be submitted to the server side when you actually submit the HTML form. So basically we're going to be hiding this actual input type file, and instead we're going to be clicking on it virtually using JavaScript. So anyway, let's go inside here and set the name and the ID. We can say my file, and if you want PHP support for multiple files, so basically if you want to upload multiple files and also support PHP, you want to add the 2 brackets at the end of this name because that's what PHP requires in order to support multiple file uploads. Also, if you want multiple file uploads, definitely add the multiple attribute to the end of the input type file. We can also say class and make this file upload __ input. Okay, so as I said, this input right here is going to be hidden behind the scenes, and instead we're going to be creating an actual button just like this, and when this button gets pressed, that is when this one right here is going to be virtually clicked to of course trigger the file selection window. We can say type and make this button, and also give it a class of file upload __ button. And also, as usual, I'm using the block element modifier CSS class naming convention, but you can of course name these classes whatever you like. For the button text, we can simply say choose files just like that to suggest they can choose multiple files. Also, if you don't want support for multiple files, just simply remove these 2 brackets as well as this multiple attribute, and of course adjust your text accordingly. But let's go back to the multiple file version. We can now also go down here and add the HTML for the file upload label. This is going to be a simple span element with a class of file upload __ label. Inside here, we can say, for example, no files selected just like that. Later on, we're going to be using the JavaScript to actually insert this text instead of it being rendered in the HTML. I'm going to save this here and refresh the browser, and we can see we get this result right here. We of course get the actual input type file. We get the custom button right here, and also the label just like that. So let's now go inside the CSS and hide this button or hide this input field, and also style up the button and also the label. So back inside here, let's head up to the style tags inside the head, and we can firstly target the main container, the file-upload class. Inside here, we can say display and make this inline -flex. the reason for the flexbox is to create an easy 2-column layout, okay? And the reason for the inline is so the actual file upload container doesn't take up the entire width of its container, okay? We can then say align items and make this center. Another benefit of Flexbox, and this right here, is going to vertically center the elements within the container. We can say font size and make this 15px. This will be the base font size for the file upload component or container. Okay, we can then say file upload __ input. We can simply say display and make this none to hide the default input type of file. As I said, this is still going to be submitted to the server side to actually do the file upload, but a display of none is not going to prevent it from being submitted with the HTML form. We can now target the actual file upload button right here. So we can say file upload __ button. And firstly, we can say WebKit appearance and make this none. This is going to remove some of the default styles applied on iOS and Safari devices. We can make the background. I'm going to make this 009879. That is the decode green color. Of course, make this background color whatever you like. We can say border and make this 2px solid and 0074 and then 5D. This is a darker version of my background color. We can then say border radius and make this 4px for some rounded edges. We can say outline and make this none. And padding at 0.5 em top and bottom and 0.8 em left and right. So basically 0.5 multiplied by the current font size of 15px. So basically it's going to be 7.5 pixels for the padding top and of course whatever that is for left and right. And also I forgot to mention that this outline of none is going to remove the default blue border or outline on many mobile devices when you actually press on the button. We can also say margin right and make this 15px to add some space between the button and also the label. We can then say color and make this white to contrast nicely with the background color. We can say font size and make this 1 em, so 1 times 15 or 15px. And a font family of sans serif. Later on, I'm going to be showing you how to import your own custom font, but for now, we can make this sans serif. We can say font weight and make this bold, and also a cursor of pointer just to display a pointer cursor when hovering over the actual button. We can then say file upload button, then the active pseudo class, just like this, to change the background color when the button gets pressed on. We can say background and make this 00745D, the exact same color as the border color. So now saving this, okay, so saving this and then refreshing gives me this result right here. We can see the button is styled perfectly fine, and if I press on it, we can see the background color changes to the same background color or same color as the border. Okay, so now we can move on to styling up the actual label. So for this, back in the CSS, we can target the file upload label class, and we can say firstly a maximum width of 250px. And this is of course to prevent, if you got multiple or many files selected, we don't want that list to appear, very long. So cap the width at 250px. A font size of 0.95 em, so 95% of the current font size. And a text overflow of ellipsis, an overflow of hidden, and a white space of no wrap. So these three properties are going to create the ... ellipsis effect when the width goes more than 250px, or the actual text is going to go more than 250px. So I'm going to save this here and refresh. Not much has changed. However, back in the HTML, let's just copy and paste this text right here a few times. So copy this and paste it a few times, save this and refresh, and now we can see we get the ellipsis effect, the dot dot dot, the 3 dots when the text gets too long, and also the max width makes it responsive. So if I was to resize the browser, we can see the text is actually going to get smaller as we resize. So definitely another benefit of that max width, and also the ellipsis dot dot dot. So now we are done with the CSS for the custom file upload button. We can now move on to the JavaScript. So let's go back inside here and just minimize this style tag real quickly and go down to the JavaScript. So basically the way it's going to work, as I said, is essentially since this is now hidden, we're going to be saying when this button gets pressed on, then we're going to make it as if this one was pressed on. So we're going to be virtually clicking this input field when this one gets pressed on. So to achieve that, we need to select every single element with a class of file upload button. In this case, we've only got one. So in the JavaScript, we can say array.prototype.forEach.call. Inside here, we can pass in document.querySelectorAll and pass in here the class of file upload __ button. So right here, the reason for this array prototype for each and then call is for Internet Explorer support. If you don't want Internet Explorer support, don't use this, but instead you can simply say query selector all, and you can say dot for each, just like this. So essentially Internet Explorer doesn't have support for this for each method on the query selector all result. So this is the actual workaround, okay? So basically, we're calling the for each method on the array prototype for each one of the elements selected in this file upload button. And we can say right here, function, then pass through the button just like that. So now this function is gonna execute for each file upload button class. And this button refers to the actual button element itself. Okay, so let's now, inside here, once we've got the actual button, we now need to get a reference to this input field and also this span. Let's just go back and make this back to its normal text. So anyway, we need a reference once inside here to this input and also this span. So we can say const, and we can say hidden input is equal to button.parentElements.querySelector and pass in here file-upload __ input. So basically, we're saying here, we've got this button, which refers to this button right here. Then we're saying get the parent element, which is this one right here. We are then saying from this parent element, I want to say query selector and select the element with a class of file upload input. Of course, this one right here. So now this hidden input refers to this one right here. Let's do the same thing for the label. So I'm going to duplicate this line, make this constant called label equal to, this time round, put label as the class. Okay, so now we have these two elements. We can now add some default label text. So essentially this text right here needs to come from the JavaScript, since we're going to be modifying it, and if the user chooses to not select a file, we want this text to be displayed once again. So let's go here and say const default label text is equal to no files selected. So now we can actually insert this this constant value into this element using the JavaScript. So let's remove this right here, okay, and instead add it through the JavaScript. So down here, we can simply say set default text for label. So label.text content is equal to default label text, and also label.title, so setting the title attribute to the same value, no file selected. Essentially, this title is going to appear when I hover over the actual span. So now saving this and then refreshing, we can see we once again get no file selected, but if I was to hover over this label, we can see now the title attribute adds that hover text right there. Okay, so now we can move on to the main chunk of this video, which is going to be the actual file upload button to choose the file. So back in the JavaScript, let's say button.addEventListener and pass in click right here and then run this function. So basically, when the button gets pressed on, we want to say hidden input.click. So of course, this one refers to this one right here, and the .click method is going to virtually click on this input field, which will of course then trigger the file selection dialog window. So now, saving this and refreshing, then clicking on the button, we can see now we get the file select window. That's working perfectly fine. So now when I choose these files and press open, we want this to update with the label, of course, to display each file name separated by a comma. So for that, let's go back inside here and we're going to say hidden input.addEventListener. We're going to listen for the change event and then run this function. So basically, every time the input changes, we're going to run this function right here. So for this, we need to get a comma separated list of the chosen file names. So let's say console log, first up here, we're going to say console.log, and we're going to say hidden input.files. So basically, this file's property on the hidden input or the input type file is going to be the actual file list object. So saving this and then refreshing and then choosing, for example, 2 files just like this. When I press open, it's going to trigger the change event and then run that function. Inside the console, we can see here we get a file list. Expanding this gives us these 2 files, of course, thumb.jpg and of course untitled.project. So basically now we're going to be extracting this name property from each one of these files, and then of course adding a comma to separate those. Okay, so let's go back inside here and we can say const file name list is equal to array.prototype.map.call. Once again, this right here is an Internet Explorer workaround for the map function. Okay, we can say hidden input.files inside here and then run this function for each one of those files. Okay, once again, if you don't want Internet Explorer support, you can simply say array.from and pass in hidden input.files, and then you can say .map just like this and do the exact same thing just like that. But for now, let's go back to the Internet Explorer supported method, this one right here, and we're going to say return file.name. So essentially, we're running this function right here for each one of those files, and then we're going to be returning the file.name. Of course, the map function is going to run for each element inside the array and then return with an updated value. So basically, turning the file list into an array of strings. If I was to console.log the file name list just like this, and then save this and then refresh, then choose 2 files once again, press open, we get here an array of 2 strings for each file name. So now we can simply just join by comma. So back inside here, let's say label.textContent is equal to file name list.join. So the join method is going to join the array and turn it into a string. with this right here as the delimiter. So a string with a comma and also a space to separate and put a space between each file name. If this right here returns an empty array, so basically if there was no elements or no files selected, we can say the two pipes right here and then say default label text. So basically if this one is falsy or an empty array, so no files have been selected, then we're going to be defaulting to the default label text, the no files selected. And this right here comes into play if the user decides to unselect the files they have chosen. We can then say label.title is equal to label.text content. So basically we're going to be borrowing this value right here, which was just set for the title. And that is all for the JavaScript. I'm going to save this here and then refresh and then choose on two files and press open. We can see it works perfectly fine, and also the title attribute, the hover, also displays the two files. So now let's unselect or choose no files and press open, and now it says, if I can actually achieve that, can you do that? I don't know. There you go. So you press cancel. So you press cancel, and it's going to deselect your files. And this time now we get no files selected, and of course the title also says no files selected. Okay. So now I want to show you how to add your own custom font. So for that, as usual, we're going to be using fonts.google.com. So head over to this website right here. It contains a bunch of free fonts to use for your web projects. So now just go inside here and select preferably a sans serif font, just like this. In this case, I'm going to be using Quicksand. So I'm going to find Quicksand right here. I might just do a search for it. So do a search for Quicksand. There it is. So we're going to press the plus button right here, and then inside here, go into the customize section and make sure I select regular and also bold. The reason for bold is because we're using font weight bold for the file upload button. So definitely choose the bold font weight if you're using font weight bold inside your CSS. Once these are selected, go back to the embed section and also just copy and paste this link HTML element right here. So copy that and paste it inside the head, just like that. And now inside here, we can simply say file upload button and set Quicksand as the font. And also for the label, do the exact same thing. So font family and Quicksand right there. Save this and then refresh, and now of course we get the Quicksand font set on the actual button as well. The reason why this didn't change is because I'm using Quicksand as my default font for all of my videos. So for you, this should have been sans serif also, but now it is your custom font. And that is how to create a custom file upload button from scratch using FileList. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.